All right, let's dive right in. For centuries, there's been this incredible mystery from the ancient world, staring right at us from these powerful, fragmented frescoes. Acrobats leaping over charging bulls. I mean, was it a myth? Was it just art? Or was it actually real? A ritual so dangerous, it seems completely impossible. Well, today, we're going to see how some seriously cutting-edge AI is finally giving us an answer, taking us deep inside the legendary Minoan Labyrinth.
Wow, I mean, that one line really says it all, doesn't it? We're not just looking at broken pieces of a static image anymore. Thanks to new technology, we're starting to see this ancient spectacle the way the Minoans themselves might have seen it, as a fluid, dynamic, and, yeah, an absolutely terrifying dance with death. So, how on earth did we get to this point?
Okay, so first, let's set the scene a little bit. We have to go way back, more than 3,500 years, to the island of Crete. This was the home of the Minoan civilization, a truly brilliant Bronze Age culture. They were known for these incredible, sprawling palaces, like the famous one at Knossos, and it's right there, on the crumbling walls of that palace, that we find the pieces of their most famous and puzzling ritual.
Just look at these scenes. They show both men and women in these unbelievable athletic poses. You've got one person grabbing the horns of a charging bull, another one is literally mid-air, flipping right over its back, and a third is sticking the landing totally gracefully on the other side. You know, for the longest time, the big question has always been, how could anyone possibly do that and survive?
And that right there, that's the central puzzle. Were these frescoes showing something that really happened, like some kind of ancient extreme sport or a religious ceremony? Or were they totally symbolic? You know, a myth about humanity taming the wild, something that was never meant to be taken literally. For generations, historians have gone back and forth on this with no clear answer. That is, until now.
So, how in the world do you solve a mystery this old? Well, it turns out you need a new kind of archaeologist. Not someone with a brush and a trowel, but someone armed with algorithms and some serious processing power. We are officially entering the age of the digital investigator.
The key technique here is something called digital excavation. And you can think of it like this. It's basically using AI to dig through mountains of data instead of piles of dirt. It takes all these fragmented, broken pieces of the past, and it uses these really intelligent systems to piece them back together, revealing patterns and possibilities that would be totally invisible to the human eye.
So here's how they did it, and it's pretty amazing. First, the researchers took high-res scans of every single surviving fragment of those bull-leaping frescoes. Then, they fed all those images into a neural network, that's the AI, which learned the unique Minoan artistic style. And then, the AI basically became the world's greatest art restorer, filling in all the missing gaps and reconstructing the entire fluid motion of the leap from start to finish.
But this digital excavation went way further. See, it wasn't enough to just reconstruct the art. If you really want to understand the ritual, you have to reconstruct the arena where it all happened. And this is just a massive leap forward. Using architectural data that we have from the Knossos site and all these new clues from the restored frescoes, the AI built a complete, functional 3D model of the palace complex. And just like that, we have a virtual stage where we can actually test what was and what wasn't physically possible.
Now, to really bring this virtual model to life, the AI needed more data. It got two absolutely critical inputs. First, something called sacred geometry, which are the precise dimensions and proportions of the ritual courtyards. And second, raw bone data. This is information from actual animal bones found on Crete that revealed the true size, weight, and power of ancient Minoan bulls. So by combining architecture with biology, the AI was finally ready to run the simulations.
And this is where we finally get our answer. By running thousands, maybe millions of simulations inside this virtual labyrinth, the AI could at last test the actual physics of the bull leap. And in doing so, it uncovered the secret behind this seemingly superhuman feat.
So, here's the big reveal. It wasn't magic. It wasn't about defying gravity. For centuries, we just kind of assumed these leapers were somehow breaking the laws of physics. But the reality, as the AI showed, is so much more impressive. They weren't defying physics. They were absolute masters of manipulating it.
Here's the secret sauce. The acrobat didn't try to jump over the charging bull. No way. Instead, they faced it head-on, grabbed its horns, and then used the bull's own powerful upward thrust of its head to literally launch them into the air. They turned the animal's raw, violent power into the engine for their own acrobatic flip. It was a brilliant and incredibly deadly application of biomechanics.
And this quote just perfectly captures the stakes, right? This was not just some athletic trick. Every single leap was a life or death gamble. By understanding and using physics with perfect split-second timing, they could survive an encounter that should have been instantly fatal. They were literally using science to cheat death, to, for a moment, transcend their own mortality.
Which, of course, brings us to the ultimate question. Okay, we now know how they did it, but why? Why would an entire culture build its spiritual life around such an unbelievably dangerous act? Well, it turns out the AI gives us some pretty strong clues about that too. The evidence is pretty clear that this was far more than just a spectacle for a crowd. The bull leaping ritual seems to have been the central point where two fundamental aspects of Minoan culture came together, where they intersected. You could say it was the very heart of their entire worldview. And this really lays it out perfectly. On one side, you have Minoan engineering. That's the how. This was a culture with a masterful, very practical understanding of physics, force, and leverage. But on the other side, you have the why. A deeply spiritual, ecstatic, and, let's be honest, a bloody quest to make contact with the divine. And really, that's the final takeaway. The bull leap was the ultimate fusion of these two incredible forces. It was a highly calculated, meticulously engineered act that was precisely designed to create a spiritual experience, to bring a mortal human right to the brink of death, and for one fleeting, breathtaking moment, allow them to touch the divine. The story of the bull leapers proves that technology can unlock secrets we thought were completely lost to time. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? From the pyramids to Stonehenge, what other mysteries are just lying there, buried in fragments, waiting for the right AI to come along, piece them back together, and show us a world we never, ever thought we'd get to see?